each other. Please join me as we come together.
Okay, we're going live now, and I'm going to grab it real quick when I go on because I can't do it here.
Okay, you want me to begin?
Please.
Life can be so challenging. Where can you go to get divine clarification, help, and advice? Well, may I introduce Natasha Venter, medium coach and direct connection to your guides and angels. Through her podcast, Life Clarifications, Natasha will help you navigate through and create your life's destiny. My name is Kevin McDonald, co-host of this podcast, and I've seen her work and know that through her incredible talent, you can be changed forever. So let's start another episode of Life Clarifications with Natasha.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's show, the day before the United States, and the U.S. is us, but we're us as around America and around the world. So I'm just going to say happy Thanksgiving to those that it pertains to. And I know we're neighbors to Canada and they're right around the corner, or they just had theirs. So whoever needs to hear that, and whatever representation of a thankful day you're giving for your country, welcome that day whenever that happens for you.
I know in Canada it's a different day entirely,
Yes, it is. It is. And it's just one of those things.
Well, happy Thanksgiving to you, my friend.
Well, thank you. And I know that it's going to be different for a lot of people, and we never know, what's going to happen next. And I just want to give everybody a chance to think about how, if we go into gratitude, as it is, and if we go into gratitude, if we go into these knowings, if we go into just that moment of, I'm grateful for breathing, I'm grateful for just being here and being able to walk forward because many of us are going through this COVID holidays, even into Christmas, that kind of, or Hanukkah, or whatever you believe in. Ramadan, there's these times where are just magical, and we're not going to be able to do what we want to do. And I just want you to know that you're loved and you're never alone. Never, never alone. And even though you feel like that. And so if I can just give anything, just find a moment of gratitude. Because gratitude I have found through my journey of grief and loneliness. I'm an only child, lost my whole family on one side of my family, and the other family is so fragmented that we don't get together that much, that, we're just, it's just a moment of gratitude that just kind of brings you into a, instead of a,
So there.
there.
Well, and this is going to be one of those times. It's like, well, first of all, let me do this. Let me say that if you would like to join Natasha on the call, you can call in at 206-408-1395 if you have a question for her. If you'd like her to do maybe a little bit of reading for you, and if you say yes, then she can knock your socks off. So with that, I just want to say, this is going to be one of those unique Thanksgivings. I'm spending it all by myself. And so it's Thursday for me, but I'm still giving thanks.
Yes. And that's the moment where we just got to do it. And it's sad. It's just plain sad. And when we do that sad moment with our emotions and just say, thank you, sadness, for just acknowledging where we have to be. What would we have to do to be alone, and that we just can't do it. And, I'm feeling for those that have to struggle with that sadness, and I'm sending love that way. And, we're just going to be what we can be at this moment. And, there's some that, our loved ones that we're not going to see again. And there's some that we're going to gratefully see again. And I'm on both sides of that coin, that we're just kind of in these moments of, okay, here we are. This is what's in front of us, and this is what we got to do. And I do want to suggest that if anybody is watching this or pops in, that as Kevin's going to write in the comments about how our phone number, that last time on Life Clarifications, that, we had a phone call. I had a phone call from a client that I have, and she happened to have my number, and we just did a reading here online. And it was a gift to be able to do that, because I think that message helped other people too that watched it later or watched it during that moment. That, sometimes we come across things that we can't do at this moment, or can do at this moment, and should do at this moment, and should not do at this moment. And I gave some suggestions about that on last Wednesday's show, and I'm hoping that it does help these moments of ugs of life, and we can't do's, and what we can do's, and all those kinds of things. And I had a client yesterday that we did an amazing meditation, and she found out that she had a dragon with her, and and she's been dealing with so much. And today she says that she's feeling so much more grounded because of this meditation we did together. And I can do these meditations on Zoom or on in person or whatever, because, this is the journey that we're on, that, we're embarking. And I'm going to say that word, embarking. It's kind of like, getting on the ship. What is our new normal? Our ancestors came across, a lot of the planes, across, lands, across ships, across trains, across whatever they did. And they just kind of were able to manage some of these things that they embarked on, this new knowing. And that's what we're kind of in right now, is this new normal of embarking into, a new journey.
Well, and hopefully this journey is going to be kind of curtailed because they seem to be making progress against the COVID. But that still doesn't mean. I would like your take, by the way, while I have you, for people that are in a position where they've made the decision that they're not going to go out and they're not going to get together with family members. How do you suggest that they get through tomorrow?
For one, breathe. And remember that that you have a body that is able to be here. And being grateful for that body that says you can be here. Be grateful for that some of us, and I'm going to say some of us don't have homes, but those of us that do have homes, that we look around and see what we're grateful for. And when we take that bite, if we do eat food that day, that we take a bite and we savor it, because it was something that's nourishing us. And I would actually suggest, and I'm going to do this because I have many family members who are on the other side, that I set a small little table. And I call this the ancestor plate, or the gratitude plate, and I feed my ancestors. I say thank you very much for being here in my previous time in life, and I just do something so that I'm not eating alone necessarily. I still have my husband, and I have one child that moved back in with me, and another one that we've been spending a lot of time around, so we know that we can be safe together within the midst of, everyone but me is doing, retail. And so it's like we're in the boat and the ship anyway. So it's one of those things that, but I'm going to set a plate and feed my family who decided to sit in that chair with us that day, because I know that my mother and my father and grandmother and grandfather and uncle and even greats and greats are spending time with us now, helping us through what we're going through, because they went through something like this. They went through a lot of the famines and the can't do's and those kinds of things. And so with that, the if we can just be in that moment of shifting, because gratitude and love is the quickest thing to get out of depression.
If you're alone, though, and like I'm going to be alone tomorrow, and I'm going to call my sister, and we'll probably have a Zoom call and that sort of thing. But if you are truly alone, because there are a lot of folks that are,
Yes.
how do you help them feel not so alone?
Well, it's doing those things that bring us comfort. Like there's sometimes where when I have those alone moments, and believe me, being an only child and not having any friends when I was growing up, I totally get that alone feeling that, lighting a candle safely brings light into the heart. There's sometimes where even as an adult, I have a couple stuffed animals that sometimes I pull close to me when there's times when even when I have my husband next to me, I'm still very alone in myself. And so I just needed to bring something that was precious to me. There's those moments where you just bring those things that are special to you close to you so that you don't feel alone. Watch your favorite show, get your mind kind of somewhere else. And coming up here soon, I'm going to be showing some pages that I do that is a touch therapy.
Okay.
And it helps with emotions and it helps with navigating things. So when we get into like kind of the next stage of where we're going, I'm going to share my screen and bring these up because I have noticed that when I hold certain fingers, that it really brings in that moment of, okay. Because a lot of times when we have techniques, touch therapy, hypnosis, acupressure, acupuncture, chiropractic, these things that can help us through things. Well, I have something that's portable and it's just on my hand, and there are different things that I can work with. And so there's these different techniques that we can do to help ourselves. But I'm going to say, though, that the moments when I am, and yes, I go through this sometimes, even just the other day, because I just was having an alone moment that I just felt that part of me that was feeling alone, the inner child. I don't know what it was, and I just did something that made me think of something for gratitude. And then I sat down, got underneath my blanket that gives me comfort, and turned on a show that made me feel comfortable. And it kind of gave me an moment. Kind of like when I watch, the Hallmark Channel, those movies that, my husband says, another one? Didn't you watch this one before? And I'm like going, yes, but it's that kind of good-hearted, good feeling. It always turns out okay. Yes, life is going to be okay. Realistically, not realistically, moments that are on TV, but it wasn't trauma. It didn't have a bunch of icky commercials. It didn't have all these different yo-yo emotions that threw me into. It was just something that was calm. And it gave me grace. It just gave me grace when I needed grace. And so...
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I forgot the piece of paper about the phone number, and I was going to put the phone number in for those that wanted to maybe call. So it's 206
408 1395. And it's also in the chat section.
What's that?
It's also in the chat section.
Is it? Because I didn't see it yet. So,
well, maybe you have a different chat than I have a chat. I don't know. Could be a different chat thing going on.
Yes, I will. 408. And what was the last part again?
1395.
1395 to call in.
Now, before we get into that, what are you making for dinner tomorrow? Are you a traditionalist?
I am going to make turkey. I am going to make mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes, green bean casserole, I did buy a pie, unless my husband all of a sudden decides to go to the store and get more pie makings for his own pumpkin pie because he's the baker in the family. I bought rolls because I don't bake rolls right now. What else am I going to have? Oh, I have cranberries. And there's something else that's going to come on the plate. My kid counted everything that we're going to eat, and there was 8 things, but it's like I always count for leftovers too. So because once I cook, it's like the next 2 days and I'm not cooking.
Nope, you gotta do the leftovers. Now, what are you doing to your turkey? I've got a wonderful recipe that I'd like to share, unless you've got a better one. So what are you doing with your turkey?
I usually cheat. Oh, and there was stuffing. I usually cheat, and I use those roasting bags.
Sure.
And my turkeys, and I usually put butter in it, and I usually sometimes if I feel like it, I have a rosemary plant outside that I cut off some sprigs and I put it inside it, and that kind of thing. Our family is kind of a less is more type of person with turkeys, so I don't do a lot of. I do seasons, but I don't do seasonings.
Well, let me tell you, the best way, if you really, really, really want a moist and flavorful turkey, take your turkey and take out the insides. Make sure you take out the insides.
Yes, definitely.
So sometimes we forget that, and it just isn't right. And but then you put fruit. You take oranges and apples and maybe a little lemon, and take some garlic and crush some garlic in, some fresh garlic, of course, and you fill up the cavity with the fruit, and the turkey comes out really moist and flavorful. Even the white meat isn't dry at all, and it's almost like it falls apart. So do that, and that's our family recipe that we did for a long time.
So you put apples, lemons, limes,
and oranges.
And oranges. See, I don't have any of those besides the apples.
Well, but this is for the folks that are just maybe listening, or you can do it next year or give it a try, because rather than, because here's the other tip: if you put stuffing into your to the cavity of the turkey, you're risking 2 things. Number one, if it doesn't get hot enough, you're risking making somebody sick, and because it's got to get up to 160 degrees.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, the bread in the stuffing tends to dry out the turkey.
Yeah, it pulls it out. And I do not cook my stuffing with my turkey, but what I use is I use the turkey juices to make my stuffing.
There you go. And and that's also a great way to make your gravy. Is your family a gravy family or no?
My husband definitely is, and I am. And I do make gravy homemade. So I do I use the flour and cold water. I found the very cold water, and then you do the quick little thing to get the lumps out. Yeah. And then I add my gravy, my flour mixture to non-boiling. Usually I try to turn off all the heat, and then I put it in, and then I turn the heat back on and stir it back in, because if you put my flour mixing into boiling water or boiling juices, usually it turns out lumpy too. So I try to do those kinds of things. My grandma said about how to put cold water with my flour, and that helps get the lumps out of the flour.
That's good tip. That's good to know. That's good to know. My family.
Well, I've made gravy. I've homemade gravy from pretty much mushroom gravy, turkey gravy, chicken gravy. Gravy it's my thing.
The sad thing is, when I was a kid, and my grandmother and grandfather and grandmother and grandfather and mother and father and aunt and uncle and all those folks were alive, we would go to my grandmother's house who was a fabulous cook, but it was like, 15, 20 people would be there, and everybody would be laughing and having a little cocktail and a little fun. Those days seem to be, at least in my experience, those days are behind us.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. And it really is too bad, because Grandma would make the gravy, and Aunt Scotty would do this, and Uncle Art would cut the turkey, and everybody had a great time doing it. Those days it's different now.
It is different now because I know that I grew up with a family of, my grandmother had 7 kids.
You had a whole bunch of folks.
And most of them, besides maybe two siblings, had 3 or more kids. And so, and every single one of the kids, well, most of them, all but maybe 2, spent time one of their first jobs was working in a bakery.
Oh, okay.
It was just a routine. The Mendenhall boys would just float through, and the bakery guy would just give them their first job. And so the homemade pies and buns and, they just melted in your mouth. And no more. I went to the store to buy my buns.
Yeah.
My husband makes pies, but he just lovingly said, hunting season got his deer, so he's been preoccupied with that. And so, I decided to buy a pie this year too. So, but I'm grateful. I am so grateful. And that again is the moment where even though things aren't turning out the way I wanted them to, or I'm grieving what I don't have, I'm grateful that I can go and appease this part of us that wants these things. I have the opportunity to go to the store and say thank you. They only cost me $1 something, so it was like, I'm grateful, and there again is finding those moments where you can just say, I'm grateful.
That's a really important thing to be able, and so many of us, we get to, well, I'll give you a quick story because I know we got to get to your hand pictures here in a second, but the quick story is I was expecting, I bought a one of those things that I've wanted for like 40 years, and it was being shipped and it was supposed to be here today, and I called them and they said, yep, it'll be there. Don't leave, it'll be there. And then they called an hour later and said, oh, no, it's not. He called in sick, so then we're not going to be able to get it to you till Monday. So,
I'm sorry. You were looking so forward to it.
That's okay. What that means is, see, what I've learned in my life is that what that means is it wasn't meant for me to have it today, and that's perfectly okay. I'll get it when I get it, and unless I don't get it, in which I'm going to be really upset then. If I don't get it, but they promised me that I'll get it on Monday. So, it's just a matter of a little bit of patience and being kind to, because I could have gone off on the poor lady who called me back and said, what do you mean it's not going to be here? But there's no point. It wasn't her fault.
It wasn't her fault. And that's the thing is that, there's times where like my computer won't work and I go, oh, okay. And then I tune in and I go, oh, okay. And I go and do what I say, what am I supposed to do next? And that idea popped in, what I was supposed to go do next. Maybe it was going into the kitchen and doing something in the kitchen. And I went in and did that. And it happened to be where I got a phone call from someone that I really needed to talk to during that time. And if I would have been busy doing what I was busy doing, I wouldn't have been available for that phone call.
Right.
And then I came back and what I was trying to do worked, And that's the thing is that many of us get so caught up in why isn't it happening right now for me?
Yep. Woe is me. I am such a sorry sack that nothing ever goes right for me.
Mm-hmm. Or like I've been hearing from someone I live with, why is it always doing this to me?
Well, there are only 4 people or 3 other people, so we can pretty much narrow that down.
I can't always pick on this person. He's a very, very, very gifted, loving man. But that there's that part of it. It's like sometimes things aren't doing it to us; they're doing it for us. And we just kind of sometimes need to take a breath. And that's one thing that he said. He says, I'm so proud of myself. Things were starting to go wrong and I just stopped. And I took a breath and I said, thank you, God. And then I turned around and started working on it. And it worked out better than I thought it was going to. It still didn't go out the way I wanted it to, but it sure did better than what I was thinking. I'm like, great job, babe. You're doing good. You're learning so much. And I was so proud of him. But this is the one thing that I wanted to kind of talk about today is about how when things aren't going right, we get these crazy emotions. And me working in the elementary school, me working with people I love, working with people who are just around me that have emotions, working with myself, that we all have these emotions that work through us. And we get these parts of us that don't necessarily feel right. You know, like sometimes our tummies hurt when we're in an anxiety. Our hearts flitter when we are making the bad decision for our lives. We get headachy, or we get our gallbladders kind of start. We get kind of these weird aches and pains in certain parts of our bodies that we just don't know what's going on, and that's part of our energy. I'm going to call it the energy of our emotion. And right now, we have a lot of emotion. If it's not ours, it's somebody else's that we feel so empathetic and sympathetic with. And we take on their emotion, and then it becomes ours. And then, you know, it's one of those things that just doesn't quite work right. And like I was doing a session with a very, very gifted, wonderful person who she's very she's very intuitive, but she does it by working with her lower chakras, which is how how people feel. If somebody you know, like she said that somebody called up and said, I don't want to put this on you, but here's my problem. And of course she has this sponge that goes,
Yeah.
and you know, like I just coughed to get rid of what I just did. You know, that there's these things that you know we take on, and it's not even ours. And that's one thing that I want to say is that we have enough trouble dealing with our own. And so what I suggested to her was that, you know, we have Archangel Michael, we have the angels, we have Mary, we have Jesus, we have all these helpers that have no religion base. They're just here for us. And so no matter what you believe in, they are here to support you. Even, you know, the First Nation, the first people of this land are Native Americans. You know, they had white calf buffalo woman. That was Mary, just in their form. And so with that we never know who's here to help us and support us. And like I told, you know, my client, I said, why don't you give your sponge over to who you want to believe in, so that you don't have to hold the sponge anymore? That every trouble goes to that sponge that Mary is holding, or Jesus is holding, or Archangel Michael's holding, or even your guides, or, you know, even she lost her husband. So even her husband who wants to maybe take that sponge for her. And so that it's not that you stop caring, it's about you being able to be more available so that your body's not hurting. You know, when we take on so much and we take on other people's troubles, our bodies start to hurt.
Well, don't do that anymore then.
It's easy to do it. It's easy to do it. And when we do that, you know, it's sad. So I'm just going to give you some coping skills. Okay.
Fair enough.
That, well, not necessarily just you, whoever's watching, that I use the mantra, what's yours is yours, what's mine is mine, and what stands between me and you is what I choose. And I choose love. And I even do this when I used to cut hair. And so when I was shampooing somebody and they were just releasing their day, I kind of put up a buffer. I wouldn't call it a barrier, a buffer. And that buffer would give that chance of things, instead of their angst and anger and frustration coming to me, because I'm right there, I kind of turned it around, had kind of like this mirror that changed everything of frustration, everything back, and it brought back to love to them. So it was almost like a feeling. And so then it wasn't necessarily I was sending back what they were dealing with. I was sending it back transformed into love. It wasn't mine. I didn't have it. But in that love that I had around me, it got transformed. So it was away from me. Does that make sense?
Of course.
And when we do things like that, we can still be loving. We can still be sympathetic, empathetic with who's around us. And we can be who we want to be for others, but we don't have to take on other people's stuff.
I'd use a different word.
I'm trying to be politically correct here.
Ah, gotcha. Well, no, I agree with you. And the thing is, what I've learned over time, and you've mentioned several of the things today, which is number one, we think that we are alone. We are never alone. You're always with the guides and the people that are surrounded to help you through every day that we are alive and every day that we're here. And then when we go there, we get to do that with somebody else. But also we have a tendency, you're right. We have a tendency to take on other people's shit that is not healthy for us. And it's also not healthy for them, because there are people in this world. I know this is hard to believe, and you probably aren't going to believe this, but there are people that want to dump on you just because they feel crappy, and they just feel like you should feel crappy too.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to allow somebody.
Misery loves company.
Exactly. Yes.
But that doesn't mean I don't want to have people stop sharing that they're feeling uncomfortable.
Well, of course not.
But I'm giving a tool for those that are the ones that, and we all, in some fashion, at some point in time, are the receiver of somebody going through trouble.
Oh, yeah. We receive their negative energy that they're putting out there because they are unhappy or whatever their deal is going on, and they do that. And you can be, actually talking about COVID, you can be infected with negative energy.
And actually, that energy will help us become ill.
Yes.
That energy helps us become ill. When we are bogged down with others' stuff because we care. We care. And it's not wrong to not to care with boundaries. You know, it's just one of those things that people sit in sessions with me, and I give this example of what I do, and I ask them, have you felt like I didn't care? And they go, oh, definitely. I felt the opposite. But at the same time, though, I don't have to. I can be the reception of their hearing. I can give the guidance, but I'm asking for this buffer of what they're releasing. Matter of fact, I light a candle when I'm doing a session so that I can ask for whatever they're releasing going to that flame.
See, but your situation is different than most of us, because you're inviting people that have got issues and troubles into your space because you want to help them get through it. So yes. You have to create a psychic barrier of sorts to protect yourself from the negativity that other people bring to you, because that's why they're coming to see you.
Mm-hmm. I do. I get so many people that they have breakthroughs with me because I allow them to be vulnerable and find those parts of them that just says, I'm done carrying the load. I'm done carrying the load. And sometimes there's no words to what's holding on to them. Sometimes it's just an emotion. Sometimes it's something. So with that I'm going to make a segue into this, is that as we work through emotions, fear, angst, grief, anger, there are pressure points on our body that can help us with this. Okay, I'm going to, for a minute here, share my screen. And I am going to do this one first, I feel like. So this is a a technique, and it is called ginseng. Okay, so each finger has a organ that's attached to it. So, like the thumb is about the stomach and the spleen, and this one's the kidney and the gall and the bladder, the liver and the gallbladder. Which gallbladder is about emotions. So people who have gallbladder problems, check in with how you're dealing with your emotions. And then we go on, and then the heart and the intestines and the stomach and those kinds of things. So different parts of the body are on your fingers, okay? And then we have the mental states that we're in, okay? So like joy, giving and receiving, and then we have the openness that we have. And sorry, I don't have my glasses on, and this is a little bit farther away, so I'm having a hard time seeing this. You know, so with that, each finger represents a different mode. Okay, so I am going to shift. I might have to. So with that, when we trust how we work with our body, and our body is able to navigate through some of this. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again because then, and I haven't quite figured out this part of technology, so you'll have to excuse me.
We'll forgive your humanness.
Thank you very much. So with this, that there are mental and emotional states. Okay, and a lot of us put them all in one bag. Okay, so like this finger, I love this middle finger. It's perfect. I think the universe knew exactly how to work with this. So this is anger and indecision, right?
Right.
Grief, negative, loss of common sense. So grief, when we're in grief, we lose our common sense. I'm sorry to say this, but we kind of lose who we are. We lose our common sense. It's hard to do things that are in front of us sometimes. It's hard for us to focus. And you know, like our thumb is about worry. The pointer finger is about fear. And confusion and pretense is the pinky. Okay? So with this, that when we have these emotions and what we're working through, I'm going to stop it because I want to show you that when we hold on to those fingers, that we work through our situation. So like sometimes, and it doesn't take a hard hold. We have the heartbeat of the body, but then we have the heartbeat of our energy field. Okay, so if we just lightly hold our finger and we just kind of hold it, then many times we can feel that heartbeat of the energy. And if we're not in line with our bodies, this is not going to be something that you feel right away. But I'm going to tell you, holding that finger kindly will help us work through emotions. Like I've been doing this for years. So as soon as I hold this finger, I can feel the shift in my body. So if we're worried about something, start holding onto your finger, your pinky. If we're in grief, wedding or marriage finger, the wedding ring finger, grief, it's a good way to remember it.
I always thought of my marriage as full of grief. I don't know about you,
but so holding on to this finger for grief, and this finger, anger. That one's an easy one to remember.
I've used that one a bunch of times in my life, and it's been actually pretty successful.
But I'm going to tell you, holding on to it, it helps. And I'm going to say that it doesn't necessarily help the emotion to stop. And it doesn't necessarily stop the energy going through the body of the anger or the grief. But it helps the body process it, which means that it moves through in a different flow. Instead of it feeling like this grief is like stopping all the time, it actually helps it move through it. And I'm going to tell you, I had one child, and he was a kindergartner last year, that he just short circuited, and he gets angry, especially at the end of the day when he's so blimmin' tired. And things just aren't going his way, and he's just. So I would sit in the back of the room, and I would hold this finger and this finger together. Because I'm going to tell you, if we hold our fingers and we work with those around us, because our energy affects everybody else's energy, that when I held these fingers, he would go from to and as I stood there and I started just letting him just kind of, so what is going on? And I just was kind with him, that as he processed his emotions and he worked through it, that within just about 2 to 3 minutes, because he was more vulnerable, more able to navigate his emotions, being younger, they don't have such a long line of walls put up, that he transformed from being so angry to more within just moments. It was minutes, maybe 3-5 minutes. And then he would kind of amp himself back up again. You're starting to spin again. And I'd hold my fingers again, and he'd come back down again. And what it did was it didn't necessarily stop his emotion. It let it process. It felt heard. Those emotions felt heard. And I would just want to say that doing those things helps us navigate through. And I'm hoping that if you review this video, that you can snapshot a picture with your phone or something to be able to get the copy of this. That we do these things. Like for me, sometimes my mind is just racing at night, and I cannot go to sleep. And so what I do is I start at my pinky, and I hold it for a few minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, depends on where my brain is. Hold this one again, then this one, and then my thumb. And then if I'm still awake, I go back. Something's flashing behind me. I go back and I hold them again. And I can tell you, when I do this, after 3 or 4 days, 3 days, I'm asleep before I even get to my ring finger.
Question for you. Which hand do you hold and which hand is the holdee, or does it make any difference?
It doesn't make any difference. If my hands are busy, sometimes my shoes are off, I hold my big toe. I use the same thing on my toes. I push on my toe. My husband's.
You can reach your toes?
I can reach. Well, my other foot pushes on that, like my pinky, my little toe. My other foot, pushes on my ring finger, and so I do that with my feet too. But like my husband says, he goes, babe, it didn't matter if you were pregnant or not. It didn't matter if things fell on the floor. You just pick things up with your feet. So I do a lot of, but me being dyslexic, I'll make an analogy here that I can write with my right hand, my left hand, and both feet. It's legible and readable. And I can actually write upside down with my left and my right hand.
See, you have a gift that a lot of people don't have. That's pretty incredible that you're able to do that. Even if you were pregnant and you could move your feet around like that, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I very rarely I very rarely have to lean over to pick up something. I just my toes curl around my pencil and I pick up my pencil, type of thing. So. But I'm just hoping. Yeah, thank you. I am just hoping that some of these tools that we just spent can help you navigate through your day. And I'm going to tell you, though, too, that with this healing technique that I use, that there's certain organs that work during certain times. And if we wake up at a certain time all the time, maybe that's the organ system that's having a hard time. and we need to kind of hold that finger, and that helps us move through. There's different pressure points that you can hold too. It's not necessarily just your fingers, but that's the quick carry version of what I know.
Oh, very, very nice. I hope that you want to put that up on the screen one more time so somebody could take a screenshot of it.
Okay, I'll do that. I'm going to share, and I'm going to do one first, and then I will. So this is the one with all the organs. And down here, it talks about what the thumb represents and what the finger represents and the little finger and what we need to do with it. So it's the high touch therapy is what this is.
So go ahead and take a screenshot of that, ladies and gentlemen, or use your camera or something so that you can do that, and so that you can dissect that and look at it in depth.
And if you have a session with me, I do have copies of this, and I can help you with this in a different way. Because this how I do give this paper out regularly with my clients, because of so many of us are dealing with emotions. And we're unsettled at night, especially.
So if somebody wants to have a session with you, my dear, how do they do that?
They can get a hold of me at www.angelicclarifications.com, or you can get a hold of me by email at natasha@angelicclarifications.com. And here is the other page. And there you go. And this one just is the basic anger, worry, fear, a lot of those that confusion that we can deal with that. And so give you a chance.
So take a screenshot of that, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. So I do hope that this, for those that have used it, that I've known that have used it, they've changed their world and how life has pushed them. And then I have another. There's one in there that in the center of the palm, one of the pages says harmony. Okay, I'm going to show you how to hold your hand. So it's basically you hold one hand inside the other, and then where your lines are, you put your thumb, and then you wrap your thumb. So you basically you're holding your thumb basically around your hand, but you're kind of focusing your thumb into your palm. Not hard, it's just lightly.
Very good. And what does that accomplish for you?
Well, when you just kind of just hold it to yourself, you kind of feel this breath in your body, and it's called harmony. And it just kind of takes the angst out of life. It just kind of takes that I don't know what you want to call it. It's just harmony. You know, it just kind of gives you that space in time that is grace. And I hold my hands a lot of times. A lot of us, I've had people say, you know, I'm always playing with my fingers. But now you know which fingers, why you've been doing this, because the body naturally knows what to do. And, oh, that's why that finger always wants to be held, because it's dealing with that organ that needs help and or that emotion that needs help.
So now, not only will you play with your fingers, you get to play with your right fingers.
Your right fingers, yes.
Yes, so that you can move forward with that. That's pretty cool, kid. And
it puts a different context of that action when you're dealing with it. You know, just instead of doing this to somebody else, do this to yourself, and you'll be amazed at how it helps.
Yeah, but I do have to say, using that middle finger does get a lot of stress out of you. And,
well, I'm going to tell you, doing this helps a lot too.
I'll try that next time. I'm older now and don't do that nearly as much as I did when I was 25. But you know, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? So you guys are going to have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope everybody out there listening is going to have a wonderful Thanksgiving for all of us. What words of wisdom do you have so that when Uncle Harry starts spouting off about politics or there's a problem in the family and stuff, how do you give some advice on how to deal with those things?
Remember, what's theirs is theirs, what's yours is yours, and you have a choice. There's sometimes when somebody starts saying something and I kind of go, oh, I start a song off in my head.
What song?
Sometimes it's just music. Do they know that I have this song going off in my head? No, but I choose something opposite of what their energy is. And I know I've had lots of practice because I've had lots of emotions that run around in this household of ours. And so with that it does come easier to me. But I'm going to tell you, though, that when we step into somebody else's world, it's their world we're stepping into. We can stand in our own world and honor their world. And so with that, listening and saying, yeah, I agree with some of that. And then just moving on. The more we give it energy, the more the energy it has. And sometimes those things trigger us. Sometimes conversation will trigger us into an old emotion. And that's where I'm going to say, check in with that emotion. Why are you being triggered? Oh, when I was a kid, I used to always be yelled at because I used to think that. And now I'm thinking, why are they getting away with it when I can't? It's time to work on that emotion.
Oh, sure.
There's a reason why Uncle George bothers us so much. Maybe it's the sound of his voice. Maybe it's his conversation that he's always had. Maybe because we get forced into doing things with somebody we don't really feel comfortable around. And we got to just start making those choices about how I can honor you. I know you, but yet at the same time, you stand on that side of the counter and I'll stand on this side of the counter.
Works for me. So that's really awesome. So you're going to have the time of your life tomorrow with your family.
I'm going to have a lot of gratitude. My youngest child is going to be moving down to New Mexico after Christmas, I think around the 27th. So, and I'm going to be taking her down there. And so I'm going to find a lot of gratitude because I know sadness is going to be here, but I'm going to find a lot of gratitude because I don't know when she'll be back. She'll be starting off a new job. She's not going to have vacation. And it's hard enough for me to get away and fly down there and see her. And it's just, we'll be in two different worlds now. And even though we're just in two different states. So it'll be interesting. So
How does that make you feel, Ma?
How does it make me feel? Well, knowing that I raised a child to be their own individuality. I have no choice in what my child does. I really don't have a choice in what my child does. But I know one thing, that I can love my child through this journey of what she's going through. I've helped her organize because that's not a strength of hers. I know that I'll be a mom who cries, and she'll honor me for that because we've already had that conversation and she knows that about me. And there's that mom part of me that's going to miss. Actually, it's going to be that part of me that's going to miss having someone around that loves me. Because I've had a lot of people that have left me that loved me. And so here's another one that's leaving that loves me, which doesn't mean that she's going to love me less, but she's not going to pop over for, hey, Mom, I love you.
Nope. Fly, birdie, fly.
Fly, birdie, fly. And my in-laws who live in Florida and we live in Washington State. So, I don't have a lot that's just right here. I have good girlfriends, but they're busy and I don't see them even, So, loneliness comes, and it can be always here. But I'm going to tell you though that I'm grateful. I'm grateful because as one part of my life is shutting down, other parts of my life are growing, and I'm going to focus on them as my time comes for having my child leave. And yes, I have another child, but he goes to work at 3 o'clock, so he's usually asleep by 6 or 7 o'clock. So I don't really get a chance to talk with him very much. And so with that, we all have what we have, and I'm grateful for what I have.
Have you made the transition?
The transition?
Yes.
Explain. Because there's many transitions I've made.
I knew you'd be going, huh? What do you mean? What I mean transition is, and my lovely ex-wife has yet to make this transition. It's something that she really needs to do, which is I have a 31-year-old and a 28-year-old man that are my children. I stopped being their father years ago because they grew up and they are now big old people. They pay their own taxes. They do their own thing. And so I've made the transition from father to friend. Have you made that?
I have, within reason, yes. I recognize when I say, I'm just being mom right now. But I also, when I had my children, even before they were born, I knew, and this is a bold statement here, that my children were never my babies. I was a guardian for them on this earth. That I was their mother, yes. I raised them through my womb, and they came out. But I always knew that my young children, when they were babies, I was guarding them. I was giving them gifts so that they can be young children. And as they were young children, I was their guardian, and I was giving them gifts so that they can be young teenagers. And as they were young teenagers, I was less of a guardian so that they can learn their lessons and their experiences so that they can be better teenagers. And then as they became teenagers, I was less of a guardian and more of a support of, yeah, that was a hard lesson, wasn't it, sweetie? I'm sorry you had to go through that. Can I help you with some tools that I know of? No, you don't want to hear them. Okay. I love you. And then as they left, I knew that I was done being their guardian as they walked their life. Now I have a child, my oldest son. He walks an hour in the morning, every morning, from one end of town to the other end of town. Doesn't drive yet, 28-year-old, who walks over an hour in the morning to work. And I sleep. So that tells you that I've made that step.
Well, again, see
at the same time, though, there are those times where mom steps in, and I claim it. I say, sorry, being mom right now.
Well, you see, and I get that, but the reality is that the way my kids operate, if they need me, they know it. I'm there for them. I'll drop at a drop of a hat. I'll do anything they need, but they're captain of their own ship. And they recognize that now, and they do what they need to do, and I support them in whatever they choose to do.
And that is exactly why my child is moving to New Mexico.
It's a big bold step. It's a big bold step. My 28-year-old with my granddaughter that I've met once is in Japan for 3 years. And so, it's good. And that's what family is all about. It is.
The only thing that I am missing is, like we mentioned here one time, about how old family used to get together.
I've missed those days. Those days are all gone now, but I really did miss those. Everybody's kind of gone on their own way. Now there's still some families that I suppose do that, but we don't have, we haven't. quite frankly, my dear, we haven't produced the way we're supposed to, and so we don't have like 10 kids wandering around and husbands and wives, and we're all get together. Everybody does their own thing.
Exactly.
Which is really, I guess, how they're supposed to. This year, that's really good that everybody's doing their own thing, because it's just the way
It is. And I'm going to say that more than likely I have one step grandchild. He's from my stepson, but yet he's my grandson. But yet he lives over an hour and a half away, and I don't see him as regular as I want. So
it happens.
It happens.
It happens. So, well, I'm glad you're going to have fun tomorrow, and it will be a great day for you and your family to get together and to bond a little bit.
It will. Gratitude is going to be the theme. That I'm just saying that right now. Gratitude is going to be the theme, and we say a prayer before dinner, and 99% of the time it's about I'm grateful.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I ordered stuff from Amazon, and it's on my front porch now, and I probably ought to go get it. Don't you think?
I think.
So that's going to be my Thanksgiving lunch and or dinner tomorrow. So we shall see. I wish you, my friend, the best Thanksgiving imaginable.
Thank you. And I wish you loving grace through your time of waiting for your new instrument that you were looking so forward to having. Your little boy was just inside of you, was just going, I want to play.
Well, there's 3,200 games in this little machine, so I'm really looking forward to it. But I get the great equalizer that God invented. You know what that is? Football. God invented football so that guys like me could spend Thanksgiving watching 3 games, 2 of which will be lousy, and the third one will be okay. But it gives you something to do,
Yes, and my husband will be doing some work on his lovely animal that gave his life for him. So, and we both blessed him and thanked him and for that journey. And so it's one of those things that I just want everyone to know, that please remember that even when you're feeling alone, but you get that whiff of a perfume that your grandmother used to wear, or the whiff of roses. Roses, a lot of times, is Mother Mary. Or you get kind of that cigarette smoke that grandpa or your dad used to smoke, or just certain things like that just these old smells or old knowings, or you just feel that hand that just gently presses on your shoulder as you're standing in the kitchen feeling alone. Just know that I just have an understanding that, and I've been told this, that there's going to be a lot of family members that are spending time with family members that are really here. So if you feel like you have spirit in your house, just say thank you and I love you, because that's what they're telling you, is I love you and I'm so grateful you are who you are.
There you be. That in a nutshell is why you did this show today.
Yes, that was my plan. So may you have support in dealing with your emotions, and may you know that your heart and your body is grateful for you processing through that tear that wants to drop, or the smile that wants to come, or just that feeling. Just know it's okay. It's okay.
Don't be an Eeyore.
Don't be an Eeyore. There's sometimes, though, where Eeyore has a place for a moment, and then we tell Eeyore to go home.
Well, it's just the rain cloud that he's always under.
Yeah. No, we don't need to stay Eeyore, but it's okay to have Eeyore come and visit, have a cry, and then say, okay, Eeyore, thank you, and then go back to your tent.
Indeed. It's been a pleasure, my dear.
Love all.
Anything else to say before we leave?
Please, if you are looking for some support, you can have a session with me. AngelicClarifications.com or Natasha at AngelicClarifications.com.
Exactly. And you can, when you're listening to this, it'll be there in bold print that you can just see her from there.
Yes.
You put that in your title, right?
I do put that in my title, in my description. And also, I will be here next Wednesday.
You will be. You will be. Well, no, never mind. I'm not even going there. So
Next Wednesday at 4, I'm always on my YouTube page.
Yes. And you can call in. Dang it.
During that time. Yes.
Next time I swear I'm gonna give somebody $20 for calling in. In any event, then you're just gonna have to find me. So I have to go get my groceries and stuff, and you have yourself a wonderful afternoon and a wonderful evening, and love you all. Hey, and thanks for listening to this episode all the way to the end. Hey, pretty cool. Hey, don't forget to follow us so you can receive regular updates and new posts. And remember, take care of each other because each other's all we've got. See you next time on My Independence Report. Did you have one more thing to say before we left?
Nope, just love.